I would quickly start off by welcoming all of you once more on behalf of Catalyst Learning Services to this Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav celebration. So we decided to celebrate Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav by actually showcasing some of our impact creators and change makers in the sector, and who have been instrumental over the last few years in creating positive impact to the lives of many human beings, as well as natural resources, to biodiversity, and so on and so forth. And as a part of the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, I am Saurabheshwar Sen, very happy and proud on this eve of our 75 years of Independence Day celebration to welcome all of you to this knowledge transfer session of Catalyst, which actually started 2 years ago with the start of the pandemic. And over the last 2.5 years, we have been able to host, thanks to each and every one of yours love, care, and support, 63 webinars focusing on the different attributes and aspects of career pathways in the social sector. And I'm delighted that on the 64th webinar, I am so happy to present in front of you and to introduce to all of you Sumedha Pandit, because when I thought about hosting an event or a webinar around the Independence Day celebration, I really thought about the true freedom of choice in terms of career choices, the freedom of choice in terms of, backing our skills, interest, and competence. And I could not find someone better within my limited network than Sumedha, who could actually be part of us. Sumedha, if I can help all of you understand, from our end, is right now working as an associate managing donor communication, fundraising with Make a Difference. Not too long ago, Sumedha started off as a volunteer, teaching kids from a nearby slum area. Well, this activity is a very popular format of volunteering initiatives, which we see many of us being part of. But what a lot of us may not be able to visualize through such an activity is the potential to convert a volunteering opportunity into a professional prospect. That's what Sumedha did, by embracing a career in social sector with the zeal and gusto, which has been truly very independent of the circumstances that all of us have been in. I've known Sumedha for years. Sumedha was part of the Catalyst ecosystem, being part of one of our training batches. But what really struck about Sumedha for me over the years has been the fact that she has stayed focused, and she's so passionate about the type of work she engages with in the social sector that the impact that she creates at this moment, with her work is very commensurate to many of the professional program outputs that we find, quote unquote, in our education system that we keep talking about. Sumedha has a master's degree in political science from Presidency University, Kolkata. She has worked as with Oil and Natural Gas Corporation Foundation as a fellow. Previously, Sumedha has been working with an anti-human trafficking NGO, where she handled the monitoring and evaluation process at organizational level. Sumedha, I think I was just joking, which was actually out of emotion, because I've seen you transform from one passionate, young, thriving, enterprising individual to now a professional social worker, a development practitioner. And we are so thankful that you could take out your time and be with us amongst our aspirants to share your story with all of us. Thank you so much once more on behalf of Catalyst. Over to you, Sumedha.
Thank you so much, sir, for having me here. I mean, although I am a professional, but I'm always a student at heart, and I'm always trying to learn and unlearn and go ahead in this process. So good evening, everybody. Firstly, I would like to really thank all of you to be here on a Saturday evening. I understand its importance, especially after becoming employed. So thank you so much. Before I share my journey in the social sector, I would want to do a small activity with all of you. Just wanted to understand, what is, because the social sector is so dynamic and it's constantly evolving these days. So just wanted to understand, what does the social sector mean to you? So if you could just use the chat box to write it, or you can also, unmute yourselves and talk about it. It would be really helpful. Who wants to volunteer? Since Sir talked about volunteering, can we start? Someone can volunteer. Okay, I mean, I can take names if you're comfortable with that. Arunima, would you want to start? I mean, it's okay if you're comfortable typing in the chat box also. So my question is, what does the social sector mean to you?
Can I go first?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so for me, social sector is like working with the people in the grassroots level.
Okay, that's
like
really
with the people and for the people.
Great. Thank you, Aratrika. Anybody else? Okay, so Arunima says social sector is something which includes working with people, keeping an aesthetic balance. Wow, yes, that's really a very real outlook towards the social sector. Thank you. Anybody else would like to volunteer? Okay, since nobody else wants to volunteer, I'll start with today's session. And I have prepared a small presentation for all of you. And I'll just share my screen. Just let me know if it's visible. I hope it's visible. Great. So embracing a career in the social sector, when Shaurvishwa sir had asked me to give a bio for this session, I couldn't come up with a better term than this, because that's something I've done personally and made a career choice to be a part of the social sector. Of course, it has its positives and the challenges. So I would be talking about the entire system, what I went through to be a part of this sector. So the first thing which I faced when I chose a career in the social sector was such questions like, what a career in social sector, why a career in social sector, and how a career in social sector. So these are the most common questions which I came across, be it from family members, be it from relatives, be it from strangers even. So because when I started off from being a student to a professional, during that time, the social sector, people weren't well aware of it. Now, at least there is much more awareness, but earlier during those times, it wasn't, it did not get so much popularity. And it was like, very limited knowledge people had about, NGOs. That's it. That's the limitation of a social sector. There is nothing beyond it or above it. So that's it. So I'll start with, the what question. So what is a career in the social sector? How does it look like? So firstly, I would want to bust some myths about what a career in the social sector definitely does not look like. It's not a hobby. Many people think, when you choose a profession in the social sector, it's a hobby, and they ask you, okay, what are you doing? I'm working with a non-profit organization. Oh, okay, it must be a hobby then, but it's definitely not a hobby. So, and it's a profession which is as equivalent and important to that of traditional professions like becoming an engineer, doctor, civil servants, all of that together. Then the next myth, which is, something only the filthy rich people can afford to do, or something you can afford to do when you have sufficient amount in your bank. But that's also not true. You don't choose social sector just because you have sufficient amount in banks. It comes from a very, very different, knowledge, very different part of your heart, which you want to give into this space. So it's a profession with a cause. The cause is the central of this profession, I believe. It gives you satisfaction and the sense of fulfillment. And you always don't need to have enough funds to help you work in the social sector. The next point is about, the notion that working in the social sector can be a less stressful post-retirement endeavor, which a lot of people have in the past taken up, but now things have changed so much. And it's not necessarily that, something you would look up to when you have already finished your professional journey and then you want to do something which is less stressful. It's basically a space, a profession where, the involvement of yourself in that role, it's so important. You have to take ownership of even your minutest actions, because that can directly or indirectly impact the beneficiaries who you're working with. So the ownership bit becomes very important. Then again, a lot of people think that the social sector is like a good transitional career choice for the mid and senior executives from private sector. But it's absolutely not true. It's open for all. Whoever wants to get into the social sector, freshers also can, get into the social sector from the very beginning of their careers. And finally, it's also one thing that, students from only reputed institutions with related degrees get into this space. So it's also not true. You can come from a multiple number of universities with a very different, background, very different degree which you have pursued. Let's say computer science. Okay, it necessarily does not have to be social science or any other degree. Also, let's say BBA. All these things you can, all these degrees you can pursue, yet you can come to the social sector and be a part of it, because the social sector is inherently very welcoming and it's open to all. But it also does not mean that, you don't do your hard work behind it. It's also equally important, because it's, you are giving something to the society at the end of the day, and it's a lot more responsible when you take on such a profession. The responsibility factor, the ownership factor comes into play. So I feel it's very important to do your research, to put in efforts for that, because when I was applying for the various job roles, and I have had, like, for the past 2 years I've been applying to multiple places, let me be honest, because of COVID and a lot of personal reasons as well. So whenever I used to apply, I mean, every application was so distinct, and every bit of the application had to be curated in such a customized manner. So that kind of hard work and research behind every application definitely puts you in a better place. And of course, you also kind of, like, while working on the applications, you learn so much about the sector itself that eventually it kind of helps you with the interview processes also in the later half. So after that, the next question is, why a career in social sector? So this is a very common question, which I think I still face from, like, a lot of people, that, why do you want to pursue a career in social sector? So for me, firstly, it has been the cause. As I mentioned that, it's a central being of why I want to pursue this career. And the cause comes from a place where you have seen something or read something, and that keeps on, bothering you, affecting you. You're not okay with whatever's happening around you in your ecosystem and want to bring about a change. So all these kind of, club together, and there's this space where you want to become a part of the social sector. The second one is impact driven. As I mentioned, to see a change, to bring about a positive impact on the society with whatever's bothering you, you have to become that change maker, that enabler of bringing about that change. So that becomes very important as to, why you want to pursue this kind of a career. And of course, the satisfaction which you derive. I wouldn't say the, something you are doing in the social sector, you will see immediate impact of it. Okay, it's going to take time. So when you see that impact in the short run or in the long run, there is a sense of satisfaction associated with that role. So that feels very wholesome, and you will have something to look up to all the time when you're in such a sector. So these were the key points which I kind of resonated with a lot in this space. So just wanted to, share it with all of you. Now coming to how to begin a career in the social sector. So as Sir had mentioned, my journey as a student in the social sector was through volunteering. I started volunteering for a very different reason, to build my CV. And when I got involved, when I started taking classes with this non-profit organization, I was teaching children from classes 6 to 8. And the first day I was okay because I was very detached from the field. But initially, as the days passed by, I could understand, I could make sense of, what were the issues. Because one day, while I think I was taking an exam for the students, and few of the girls could not write their test paper, like write nothing, absolutely blank. So I asked one of the children that, why are you not able to write anything? And by then I had kind of established a good rapport with them. So another friend of hers prompted, saying that, the girl did not have enough time because her mother used to go out to work, her father was a drunkard, and she had to take care of her siblings as well as manage her household chores. So coming from, such kind of disrupted families where, it's very difficult to engage in your own studies, in your own personal time, something in me started bothering from that very moment. I didn't know what to do about it, because if I would have taken, there were multiple thoughts that were coming to my mind, like, what if I go to that family and, make her parents understand? but it might also have repercussions on the child. So all these thoughts started coming to my mind, and that's when I thought that, I need to do something about it. But this something, I did not know what I was about to do. So days passed by, 2 months of my volunteering session got over, but that thought still lingered in my mind somewhere. So I enrolled myself with another organization and continued volunteering with children at childcare institutions now. And I was teaching them life skills and values through various activities. And so during that time also, interacting with all those kids, some kids were like super interested in studies. They wanted extra classes. Like when our sessions got over, they were like, nahi bhaiya didi hum log mat jao, hum log ko abhi bhi thoda is bare mein, let's say, some sums, they came with their books like is bare mein hum log ko janna hai, this and that. So that kind of an engagement, that level of engagement really struck a chord somewhere in my heart. And I kept on thinking, the previous situation which I had faced, and now these things, what can I do which will break this kind of a barrier where they have to, they are so keen to do something, but they are not being able to. So what to do about it, how to go about it. So these were the thoughts that came to my mind. But as a student, I couldn't fathom of doing something at that point of time, because of course, like there are a lot of pressures particularly. So I think that, so then my volunteering time got over, because I enrolled myself into a master's course in political science. And that's when I also joined Catalyst, because I wanted to also, get into the development sector. So I thought, if I could get into Tata Institute of Social Sciences or any other reputed institution for the being professionally well groomed for the social sector, I would have higher chances at being better in this domain. But due to certain personal issues, I had to drop out, and I could not continue with Catalyst at that point of time. And of course, I couldn't make it through Tata Institute of Social Sciences either. So I was doing my degree, and these thoughts were still in my mind. So when I completed my degree, I think few non-profit organizations came to our university for placements, like Gandhi Fellowship and I think Pradhan, and there were other corporate organizations mostly. So when I applied for Gandhi Fellowship, I got through it, but because of, the locations that they were providing me with, my family wasn't very comfortable back then, because I just came out of university. So I had to drop that option also. Now I was just a master's degree student who just had her degree, but nothing to, had no jobs. And that thought was still there at that point of time as well. I could have gone into the corporate sector, but because there were more opportunities, more openings for freshers, but I still waited that, something might open. And it did. There was, with a reputed institution, I got a research position offer. But the entire project was scrapped off because of funding issues, and that was another setback for me, because I was really rooting for this at this point of time. Then fast forward to next January, I see this advertisement of Oil and Natural Gas Corporation Foundation Fellowship, and that was the last day of filling up that application form. So I thought, okay, let's give it a try. Anyway, I don't stand a chance, so there's no harm in applying for it. So I applied, and mind you, I was in between, I was applying for other places also. And mostly the common problem, which I think a lot of us face, was freshers expected, but it would be desirable to have 2-3 years of experience. So that was mostly what I came across during that time while applying to places. So within a week, I heard from ONGC and they had asked me to go to Delhi for their interview process. I went to the interview venue and I saw there were around 500 plus applicants. I got very scared. I was like, I don't stand a chance, because there were people who had such good credentials, and I was just in awe of them altogether, that, to actually focus on my interview in that time period, I was just like more in awe of the people around me. So after my interviews and all, I think it took 2 weeks around when I heard back from them saying that I was selected for the fellowship. And there were only 8 positions for that fellowship and 500 applicants. So that kind of, motivated me. Okay, maybe I'm on the right track. Maybe things are actually panning out for me in the social sector. Maybe, my heart belongs to this space, which is why it's continuously, helping me work through all the challenges, all the hurdles which I'm facing right now. So when all of this happened, my fellowship started in March 2020, and by the end of the month, the lockdown happened. So COVID disrupted our entire lives, and although I was working online for the fellowship, but it had to be shortened. The duration of the fellowship was shortened to, I think, 7-8 months from an year-long journey. And I had thought initially while I was pursuing the fellowship that I will be able to, build a network, build a connection from where, it's going to be easier to get more involved in the social sector space. But it did not happen because of COVID and online, everything, the importance of building connections and everything kind of reduces. That's what I felt back then, because it was new to everybody. So that happened. Then after the fellowship, I had nothing again in hand. So I had like no alternative options, nothing. So I had to like sit for like a month or 2. And in that time also I was applying. But again, a challenge which I faced was a lot of organizations don't consider fellowship as a proper work experience. So I didn't know what to do, because that was only what I had in hand back then, and the volunteering experiences. Then I had got through another organization, but it was a little different job role. It was like a business development associate, and something which I could not connect to, although it was in the social sector, but I just couldn't connect to that. It wasn't meant for me, I guess. So, and also it started affecting my mental health. So within the first 2 months only, I kind of like dropped out of that. And again, I was like sitting idle. And of course, there was a lot of pressure building up, because your peers were into good professions, your family pressure, all of that, like, what you're doing with your life, kind of like started becoming very overly self-critical during that phase, particularly. Then there was a time when I started again applying. I took a break from applications, because that also gets to you at a point of time, and it becomes very overwhelming. So you feel so much of burnout, like just writing pages after pages for your CV, for your, cover letters, all of that. So it kind of like gets to you after a point. So that happened with me. So I took a break, refreshed my mind, then again started applying. So on one side, so here I have mentioned on this page, like, few sites which kind of like really helped me. I kept on researching every single day and updated these sites for myself, that, if something which suits what I want to pursue and how I want to pursue, if all these fall into place, then I'll apply for it. So kind of started marking these opportunities for myself and kept a regular watch on these websites. Then I got this opportunity to work with an anti-human trafficking organization. I had an amazing manager there who literally helped me throughout, because when I got into the role of monitoring and evaluation at the org level, it wasn't easy. And I didn't have enough exposure to research methodology, which was the core area for this role. So, I mean, theoretically, I did not have knowledge about research methodology, but the practical application of it and how organizations are actually using various kind of methodologies and various derivations of the same, that knowledge I did not have. So my manager in the previous organization really helped me with all of that knowledge, and I kind of started enjoying my job. And I think I also encountered a life-changing experience during that time, which was when I went for my first rescue operation, from where along with my team, we rescued 2 minor girls and a major girl from a brothel. And after the rescue, the entire day, we were at the police station. A lot of things were happening. The criminals kind of, came to the police. Some of the criminals who were not caught and who were allies, basically, they came to the police station, kind of created a ruckus. So all of this was happening. So it kind of like took an emotional toll on me initially. Like, I didn't know what was happening around me, but it was a life-changing experience because I could understand, what kind of brainwashing these young girls had to go through from a very early age, that they are still, even at the police station, they were not ready to reveal, how they got into this trade and who have been bothering them, nothing. So I think that's when my motivation to be in this sector, to bring about a change, which I want to see personally, became stronger than ever. So I think that was a very eye-opening journey for me that past year. And I had like a few other rescues also. I visited some court hearings for some of the survivors of human trafficking as well. And of course, my colleagues did share a lot of their experiences, which kind of, helped me understand the sector better, understand what are the challenges. And also, working in a nonprofit organization kind of gave me an overview of how things are and what happens with nonprofit organizations. What are the challenges which they face while they get into the mode of operations, which I was not able to understand while I was pursuing my fellowship with ONGC, because they were more from a corporate sector and they were the funders of various activities with the nonprofits. So I only thought, okay, we are giving money, then the work should be done. I mean, it's not as easy as it sounds. When I started working in the nonprofit organizations, that's when I understood, there are so many challenges they have to face on a daily basis. And then after that, I wanted to, get into something which was kind of challenging. Like, I kind of got comfortable in the role. So I thought something which I could explore, which was more challenging and which would take me out of my comfort zone. So I applied to make a difference, and I got through this role of, becoming a grants associate, where I manage donor communications, help with fundraising. Because fundraising, I thought it was easy when I saw the people doing, you just have to approach people. But when I'm actually a part of it now, I realize it is so difficult to do that. And it's not easy to convince people or get through people, even when you're telling a story from the ground. So how you do it through various sessions in my organization currently, I kind of understand, how you go about that fundraising bit, how you approach people, how you, narrate the stories of these beneficiaries in a certain manner, which kind of helps the donors, the funders, to relate to the story in some way or the other, kind of affects them in one way. And then that's when you can kind of create a rapport with the prospective funders. So that's more or less how my journey has been so far. And I wanted to also share that, I mean, these are the two ways which a lot of people can get into the social sector. One is volunteering. And with that, I would also like to inform you that Make a Difference is currently looking for volunteers for multiple roles. So if you're really interested in volunteering and exploring this sector from a very early stage in your careers, before even you make a career choice, it would be a very good opportunity, very good exposure for you to do that as well. And apart from that, there are various fellowships, jobs, databases for the social sector in these websites like wavenetjobs.org, Go Barefoot, then NGO Box, and of course LinkedIn, which also helps you build a lot of connections with a lot of people in the social sector. And during, at least, in the past 2-3 years, this the utilization of LinkedIn by the social sector professionals have increased so much. So you can always, create this ecosystem over this platform as well. So it's very helpful that way. Okay. So the other reasons of why I wanted to be a part of the social sector were, I wanted to see a change in the society. And I mean, it's okay to criticize something which you're not happy with in the society, but what you do about it and what's the next step you take after criticizing that is on you. So that's what I felt personally. So I wanted to see that change, and I wanted to be a part. I'm so sorry for I wanted to see that change, and I wanted to be a part of making that change happen. That's why I think this sector appealed to me mostly. Then I feel there was a zeal, there was a connection through this for this sector all the time for me, and it just kept me going. There were a lot of ups and downs. It hasn't been easy, and I still believe it won't be easy, but it's just the zeal which I feel I have towards the sector which keeps me going. I feel gratitude is very important to be a part of this sector, because, I am so thankful for a lot of people who have been with me in this journey throughout. And it kind of helps me also to make, aware choices for this, for being a part of this career, and for also, doing everyday tasks. I think I would like to express my gratitude. Even like, my current team members, they are like so high about everything I do, every little thing I do. Even when they got to know about the session, they were like super excited and cheered me up throughout my entire organization for that matter. So, in bits and pieces, all the kind of gratitude from my friends. Akashina is a very close friend of mine who has joined the session as well. So she kind of like kept me pushing through it. Like, there were days when I used to like literally cry over the phone, like, this is not working out. Maybe I should like reconsider my career choices. But she kind of like showed a lot of belief. And of course, like, when I enrolled myself into Catalyst, when I saw that, so many students were also wanting to be a part of this sector, it kind of like helped me understand that, there are people like me who also want to bring about that change, and who want to become a part of bringing about that change. So that really motivated me. And of course, sir was always there. Even recently, I had a few other opportunities in hand, and I had asked sir that, I was really confused, like which one to take up, and the pros and cons, and he really guided me through it. And based on that, I could make a sound choice for myself. So really, really grateful for all of those people who have helped me in this journey so far. Then creating your own ecosystem of change, which can be merged into the larger community in the long run as well. So, when you see people who have similar mindsets of bringing about that change, wanting to become the change makers, enabling the beneficiaries, empowering them to, come out of their vulnerable situations, and fully enjoying the freedom of choice, which sir had earlier mentioned about. I think so these can be done when we help ourselves create this ecosystem. Maybe it can be a friend circle who kind of like think alike on certain issues, and you can help make them change agents, and that's how you grow larger into the community space. And of course, acceptance. Like it's very difficult, there are times when people you would see your peers getting into corporate sectors, earning a huge amount and being like, leading a very luxurious life and all of that. At times it might affect you, because it has to me. Like there have been days when I've, questioned myself continuously. Okay, even I wanted something on those lines, but it didn't happen. Is it because of my career choice, or is it something I don't want right now? So that kind of acceptance that, what I've chosen for myself is the path that's going to take me ahead in the life. So that kind of acceptance has to come from you, and it does. And on days I cannot accept my reality and it affects me, but I make sure that when on the next day I come back stronger and accept my profession, my choice, and embrace it completely. So that's the reasons basically. And then talking about the diversity of the sector. So this sector is so diverse, and the more you get into this sector, the more aware you become that, there is so much more to do, and there is like, it's always expanding, and the things you can do, the roles in which you can work, and the kind of the way you can give back to the society, it's so huge. So there are various domains like education, equality, justice, employment, poverty alleviation, environment, water, sanitation and hygiene, social investment. So these are all these, and some of them are like evolving a lot these days. So yes, those who are the aspirants can keep a watch if you're interested in those sectors as well, domains. Okay, so I have a few pictures from the field curated for you. It brought back a lot of memories for me when I was actually going through these pictures. So maybe it will help you also with your decisions. What you see on your left-hand side, the first two pictures are from my volunteering days with a CCI, where I was teaching the children life skill sessions through various activities. It was in 2016, such a long time now. And the ones which you are seeing on your right-hand side are from a session I conducted with the survivors of human trafficking with my previous organization. So it was a really interesting day, because it was, I think, happened right after I had joined the organization. So I was very new to the organization, and while interacting with the survivors, I got so much more insights on their life stories, and it really helped me understand what kind of challenges as people they are facing, and how they have broken all the stereotypes and the stigmas associated when they kind of rehabilitate back into the society, reintegrate with their families. So all of that really helps to understand the work you're doing, and for whom the work you're doing, and how it's impacting their lives, and how it's not only their lives but their thought processes. They have become so empowered in thinking, also having that freedom to think, which kind of seemed at a point for them like a challenge, a huge hurdle. Now they have overcome it, and are like most of them are leading successful lives in whichever journey they have chosen. So really happy for all of them that they have come such a long way. This video really makes me happy, so I thought I would share this with all of you too. This was during my volunteering days in Dan Utsav, which is basically the festival of giving, which happens starts from, I think, October 2nd, Gandhi Jayanti, and continues for like a month long or something like that. So here we got the children from the various CCIs in Kolkata and took them to a park, and all were given, all were given various goodies, various hampers, and they were engaged in various activities like drawing competitions, dance competitions, all of that. So they really enjoyed that day. And we did too when we saw their bright smiles. So this video also kind of reflects that. So that was a bit of the happiness the children felt during that session. Okay, now coming to the challenges. I don't want to paint a very rosy picture for you in the social sector. It does have its own challenges. So at least, I mean, these are the challenges which I face. So it's always good to pass down these so that, you know, you are more prepared, better prepared than what I had to face and prepare on my own. So firstly, it's a very dynamic sector, and there can be days when you might feel less appreciated. And it's not always, you know, the beneficiaries are going to come up to you every day when you're working and thank you. So it doesn't happen like that. So I kind of had expected that in my initial days, but it doesn't happen like that. So it's okay if you're less appreciated on some days, but make sure that does not happen in the longer period of time, because then that can affect. But it's, I mean, I kind of started making peace with it. And then I think, you know, it can take an emotional toll on you occasionally, which I felt when I had gone for my first rescue, as I mentioned. And especially this is applicable more for, you know, the field-based work where you're like, you know, facing the beneficiaries, because a lot of times their stories are so touching, so difficult to listen to because of the kind of abuse or violence it involves, that it kind of might, you know, affect you emotionally. But I think that's the best part of it, because the organizations make sure that, you know, you are taken care of. Your colleagues make sure, who are experienced already in such a area, they make sure that, you know, you get enough care, you're well rested before another kind of a field work happens, and tries kind of help you with, you know, constant check-ins that you're doing good or not after such a interaction. So it's that way the social sector really takes care of your mental health and emotional well-being. And then I think what I felt was, you know, the need to become a multitasker in the social sector, because like what role you are a part of. Since the social sector, mostly the non-profit organizations have limited bandwidth for every role. So it automatically becomes very important for every role that you become a multitasker, and you might be doing something very different from your role as well. And that's completely okay to be a part of, because at the end of the day, you're learning multiple skills. And as long as this, you know, learning and unlearning process keeps on going, I feel personally that you kind of ensure your growth, and there is a positive impact in your journey throughout. So that kind of happens. And of course, self-learning, like everything, nobody's going to come and spoon feed you, because when I was a fresher, that's what I thought, that, you know, someone's going to guide you or something like that throughout. But that does not happen, because everybody, even your manager, is like, you know, multitasking. So it really does not become easy that way. But of course, like if you're open to learning, it really helps. Then building connections, like I mentioned, you know, for some people who are very communicative, it can be really helpful. But for some who are not, like I am not very communicative, I feel. So it becomes a little difficult to build connections in this sector, and to make that ecosystem. So that takes time. So you have to be patient with that. And talking about patience, another thing which is the crux of the social sector is the impact. So it takes time to reflect. It really takes time to reflect. You cannot the change, the impact does not happen overnight. It will take time to reflect. and you will have to keep yourself grounded for that impact to happen and be patient with it. Because, when you're working in a non-profit organization and you feel that, this organization, whatever I'm contributing to, I cannot see that impact immediately. It might affect you, I mean, knowingly, unknowingly, but you might keep on thinking about it, whether I'm doing the right thing, whether I'm in the right profession, right place. So yeah, patience is a key to this situation. And of course, the remuneration bit, which I felt was a challenge, which earlier seemed like a challenge. It's not really a challenge, I would say now. So if you are comparing it with the corporate sector, then you are not going to be happy about it. So firstly, you have to remove that idea that, whatever I'm getting, my peer in the corporate sector is getting better. That comparison should not happen in the first place. And of course, this sector does pay well and at par with other sectors as well. But yeah, so the initial times can be a bit of a struggle, but once you are, in 2-3 years, you are good to go. That's something I can vouch for mostly. But again, it's very subjective. Like your initial package can be way more also when you're a fresher. So it depends on organization to organization. Don't want to generalize this bit. So that's about it. That has been my journey so far in the social sector space. And I also wanted to, on this occasion of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, where we have already come such a long way with freedom in different forms. Although there has been a lot of controversy regarding the term freedom in recent years. But, when we always think about those communities who don't even have that freedom to think or the freedom, of their freedom to their basic rights, I think that's when we should kind of step in. And that's where we as social sector professionals or aspirants in the social sector space should step in to, get into the social sector space. And the ones who are already a part of the social sector are already revolutionizing it and already part of this revolution, I feel, where, you are empowering the other individual or you are empowering the cause you are believing in and, helping these communities. And there is so much more to do. So it's always a space where whatever you do, but there is always more to do. So it's just like you have to continuously give. It's going to repay you as well in some form or the other, mostly through satisfaction and gratification. But yes, that's how it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumedha. I think this was the most, I would say, close to the heart as well as to the mind conversation, because as an agency, say in all of us who are generating the demand for the sector, it's a equal responsibility on each of us to share, as Sumedha mentioned, a very balanced approach, to be aware of the challenges which lay ahead of you so that you can understand how do you recalibrate yourself to be part of the sector and with your intervention. Sumedha, your I would say that, the story, because for me, this has been again a revelation, because we've never structured this out earlier, like the way you did for each of us. But it kind of gives me back the inspiration to support young minds much more, thanks to you. And it is also important, as Sumedha mentions, that we foster as a collective that is believing in the change of transforming human capacity for the better. Because so, as Sumedha highlights that, you are empowering human beings at the end of the day to actually carry forward your vision. It's not only you. So I will try to keep any questions open for the audience before we wrap the session up. So anyone who might be keen to know a little bit more, you're most welcome to ask question to Sumedha. Aditi, Aratrika, Arunima, Joshua, Ramita, Roshnai, anything specific, something from your space, something which could be connected to a career choice, feel free to raise the question. Sumedha is there to share her thoughts, and I'll also be happy if there is an opportunity. I would like to also pitch in. So any final questions from any and many of you for the session?
Sarveshwar, so I don't have any question as such, but I would actually really like to, thank Sumedha, because she was an amazing speaker, and it was really nice, listening her heartfelt, journey. It was actually really nice and inspiring. So thank you, Sumedha, and thank you, Sarveshwar, for arranging this session. It was really delightful.
Thank you.
You've been doing an amazing job, Sumedha, and I wish you all the very best. And of course, if there are any volunteering activities coming along, I would really love to be a part of that.
Yeah, I can actually share the link with you. I'll just drop in the link. Just give me a second. I'll share it here in the chat box.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Aditi. We're glad that we could get this together, and it has been of constructive utility for all of you in terms of knowing Sumedha's story and being able to connect what lies ahead.
Hello, Sumedha.
Hi, Ratrika.
Thank you so much. I really gathered a lot of insight, and especially this thing that we should be always motivated. So I want to share one thing, but firstly, since you said you have worked with the children, so it was some NGO. So was that an orphanage, right?
No, so these non-profit organizations, so I volunteered with two different organizations as a student. One was with a non-profit organization, which was directly working with children from the nearby slum areas. The other is a volunteer-driven organization, which works with various childcare institutions across the nation.
Okay.
Yeah. And even in my current role in Make a Difference also works with, youngsters like all of you who are directly working with the children, mentoring them, guiding them throughout. And it's across India. So, yes.
Okay. So, yeah, I basically worked with an orphanage. I was volunteering, and again, I internshiped also. So I found there was a lot of things going with the children over there.
Right.
Like maybe my role was of just teaching, and also I conducted some life skill motivational classes sessions. But that's where I found out that they don't have that mental health. They have a lot of mental health issues over there. So that's what is concerning me these days. Are these orphanage and NGOs are actually looking also taking better care of the children?
Absolutely. So that's a challenge, and it's very good that you noticed it so early on. And I think that's the beauty of volunteering. Like, you get a lot of exposure in the sector, and you kind of understand the problems, the challenges it entails from a very early age to make a sound choice whether you want to be a part of the sector or not. So that's a really insightful story. Thank you so much, Aratrika. And of course, there is, so much more in such situations. Yes, looking forward.
So just to pitch in, Aratrika and also Sumedha, like on this note, I would like to just highlight Aratrika, that I would definitely be interested to connect you with some of our former students from Catalyst who are actually in the space of providing this sort of a emotional well-being to a psychosocial response mechanism, especially in a children's setting. Like it can be if you're working in a shelter home or an orphanage, or maybe like a even like a school setup where children are going. I know for a fact that I'm connected with some of our former students who are at this moment in professional capacity working with these issues that you're talking of. So maybe after this session we can actually reconnect, and maybe I can also discuss it with Sumedha and reconnect with Aratrika, because I feel that Sumedha highlights in this session very importantly knowing the sector through the professionals who are actively involved. Like now today we know Sumedha, right? We know Aratrika and the type of work that she has been part of, and we will always be discovering newer people who are working and contributing. Over the last 10 or 11 years that we have been trying to support the social development sector with our mentorship at Catalyst, what has happened is, Sumedha knows this, we have been able to kind of generate a network of professionals like Sumedha who are working in multiple domains. So I know quite a few of them. We would love to see, Aratrika, that if that is like a concern that you highlighted, and you feel that even though your internship is over, that concern still lingers, right? We cannot
Yes, sir.
ignore or neglect that concern. Like you might be going forward to your next semester, your credits might be over, but the concern still remains, right? So maybe someone in our network whom we know pretty well, we would love to patch Aratrika. And
Yeah,
I'm
sure, sir.
just kind
Thank
of,
you, sir. Yeah.
I'm actually kind of thinking very loudly ahead, Sumedha, that maybe like a professional network also.
Yes,
Uh,
yes. That
from
would
a
be very
community,
helpful.
that could be
Yes.
very helpful. We can definitely float
For
such a
addressing different concerns. Yes, absolutely.
exactly.
But another concern which is related to what Aratrika pointed out, so these childcare institutions and all, so it has been revealed in various studies that there has been a reduction in the childcare institution numbers. So children are going back to their communities, the communities which have already affected them and for which they had to be a part of these institutions. They are going back to that community and becoming more vulnerable. So as when we are building these communities, if we kind of like keep these things in mind, it's going to be really helpful to approach the problem, like the how of the problem can be approached in this manner, I feel.
Right then. So with that, on that note, I would like to sum up the session for everyone. What definitely is the strongest takeaway, in terms of Sumedha's journey, the story that she shared, and as a lot of you felt the strong passion, motivation, and resolve towards initiating change and staying focused at it, will always eventually enable that opportunity to be created in front of you. And it's so important that certain aspects of patience and perseverance still remains within us, and the self-belief, which is very noticeable throughout Sumedha's journey. And we wish Sumedha the best always, from Catalyst, to keep her flag really high. We have been talking a lot about Tiranga, but I believe like how we want to be proud about our own Tiranga, each of us are actually strong flag bearers of our own set of beliefs. And if that belief can be channeled in a structured, systematic way, from the words of Sumedha, you will be able to generate your own ecosystem, which in turn will only grow and grow. I keep reminiscing of the times when I started Catalyst and very few of us actually understood the social sector. But the moment I saw one of our first, support group slowly and steadily blossoming as social sector practitioners, that's where the stories began. And thanks to all of you and your support that we have been able to generate a sustained demand for the development sector. We should celebrate the social sciences, the development sector. We should talk about these stories much more. We should initiate dialogues, not just always in a webinar format, but even in unstructured formats. Our conversations, our career choices should also be very inclusive of the communities and the type of impact we want to create, right? There is so much focus on climate change and sustainability nowadays, but we have to keep in mind that certain basic practices connected with communities, connected with certain moral values, which also boils down to the basic freedom of expression, speech, and thought, is equally important as tools of intervention to celebrate a great life ahead for all of us. Thank you so much, Sumedha, for your time. Thank you, participants, for really supporting this initiative and endeavor of us. Thank you for asking the questions. Thank you for validating our effort. And on behalf of everyone at Catalyst, wishing each of you a very happy Independence Day in advance. As Sumedha mentions, that the true freedom definitely lies in your persistence, perseverance, patience, and hard work. Thank you so much once more.